So I found this really cool wolf spider in my backyard, and I wanted to share how I built this really simple enclosure for it, so the next time you find a wolf spider in your backyard, you have no excuses not to keep it as an awesome and easy to care for pet. So first things first, you need a spider. And this one here is genus either Hogna or Tigrosa, still figuring it out. I also have this old milk chocolate covered almonds container. Eat those first, don't let them go to waste. Then I picked up some sticks and bark from a pond near my house. Then instead of picking up dirt, I found this coconut husk brick at Walmart. You just add water and it turns into dirt, basically. Then I have this net fabric. You can find it somewhere like a fabric store or also Walmart probably. And then I have some scissors and a small box cutter to do a little bit of cutting. And then last but not least, a hot glue gun to attach the netting to the lid. Now I mentioned heading to a local pond to grab the sticks and bark that I used for this enclosure. Now the reason I did that is because I am fairly certain that they are reasonably free of any insecticides. I know the area at my house is not, and I didn't want to put any of that in its enclosure with the spider. To start, I peeled off the label from the almond container. Then I just used some water and some rubbing alcohol to try to get the rest of the adhesive off as best as I could. Next, I took my coconut husk brick and started breaking off a piece. Now this thing was good for an entire 55-gallon terrarium. I didn't need all that much, so I struggled for a while trying to cut through until I could finally break off a piece. Next, I added some water to the coconut husk to hydrate it, and I did not add nearly enough here, so just keep an eye on yours and keep adding water until it's all soaked up and no longer dry. Next, I grabbed the box cutter and I cut a little rectangle in the lid. Now I just happen to follow the kind of logo indentation here, but feel free to cut it how you wish. And just make sure you're careful, this is a pretty sharp knife. And then once I popped it out, I came back in with the knife and just kind of smoothed up some of those rough edges so that there's nothing too sharp poking out. Once I had that hole in the lid, I just grabbed the netting and kind of traced out a shape to be about the same size, a little bit bigger because we're going to need to glue it down, and then I just cut it out. So once you have your fabric, hold it over the hole, make sure it all lines up. I had to trim mine down a little bit, but yeah, just make sure it kind of goes around the edges. Double check the other side, make sure all is good, and then you are ready to start gluing. So now I just grabbed the lid and the hot glue gun and I put a strip of glue all around the edge, making sure not to leave any too large of a gap because we want that net to be nice and flush. Then you just take the net, press it down. Remember, this is hot glue, so don't do what I did and put your finger straight in it. So just kind of grab on around the edges and pull and press down to get that nice and snug. So at this point, my coconut husk was all hydrated, so I started scooping it into the container. Now, I did not put quite all of it in. Before I finished it off, I grabbed the bark and I stuck it in. I kind of angled it in to create sort of a support, almost like a roof for a hypothetical burrow that the spider would be digging. From here, I put the rest of the dirt in and then kind of packed down to make it fairly firm. Next, I grabbed one of my sticks and I slid it under the bark and pushed it into the dirt to create kind of a starter burrow. So if it were to start digging, the hope is that it would dig here to have that bark as an overhead support. Now we are ready for the spider. So I took the lid off the enclosure and I grabbed the spider. Unfortunately, it climbed off the paper towel that was serving as kind of a temporary burrow / home, and I went ahead and pulled that out. So to transfer the spider to its new home, I dumped it in. It went a little faster than I expected. I was hoping to be a little more gentle, but fortunately she was fine and immediately kind of started to walk around her new home. So as she was walking around, I noticed that she's it almost looked like she was sucking on the dirt to try to get some water out. So what I did was I grabbed a little blue violet, filled it up with water, and she immediately went over and started drinking. And that is a pretty simple enclosure to make, mostly upcycling things around the house. So if ever you find a cool bug but you don't have anything to keep it in, look around your house, you just might have everything you need.